first that was an obsession. I think I was frustrated with my fucking name Tilt that was so hard to tag that I finally find a way in between piecing and tagging. So I can do that thing fast with flow that really please me, because the piece is supposed to change. Okay, if you do another piece, you need to change the piece. If not, people will say, hey, this fucking writer is lazy. Why is doing the same style with new colors? He's lazy. When you do through up, you can be lazy. You can be like, this is the same one, I'm gonna do again and again and again.
It's cheating.
Yeah, exactly. It's cheating, but I like it.
No, this is being lazy, but it's allowed in the graffiti world. Exactly. This is where you're allowed to be lazy. And
finally, I felt allowed to be lazy. This I like.
Legal lazy.
Legal lazy. Yeah, yes. That's a nice name. Okay.
Hello, and welcome back to Kind Regrets podcast. I am Boris, and I'm extremely pleased to introduce you my special guest today, which is Tilt. Tilt is a French graffiti writer from Toulouse, which on one hand is painting graffiti and throw-ups since the past 35 years, continually and counting. On another hand, he have established a gallery career, which is backed up by institutions and a serious amount of collectors. I personally knew Tilt's work before I met him. I knew the throw-ups, I know his books, I'm following his art career, but after I had the chance to meet him, to host him, to have a conversation with him, to understand what is inside his mind, how he connects indoor with outdoor, how he connects legal with illegal, to have the chance and the opportunity to follow him in action here live, to film him, to photograph him, generally to see him as a persona, this completely elevated and made me more sophisticated picture of him and his work. And I hope after you watch my conversation with him, after you listen what he have to say, you will be able to understand better and have more clear picture, and hopefully, like me, like him even more. In our conversation, we discuss about his origins, how he get into skateboarding, graffiti, what is throw up, how he get into it, and how this obsessive and repetitive discipline became the center of his identity. And last but not least is the genesis of Never Ending Story, which is his latest book and the centerpiece of our conversation. He explained in depth how this book came to life, what it contains, and how it was created. I hope you guys enjoy this listening. All the information necessary is at tilt.thegrifters.org and in the link in the description. Have a nice listening.
I would say that I'm a classic graffiti writer. I start writing, I start tagging in 1988.
Okay.
A long time ago. I come from skateboard culture. And I was really, and still a little bit, but I was really into skateboarding when I was a teenager. And I started to notice on some videos that on like empty swimming pools or some skateboard contest, I started to see some graffiti and some stuff there.
Okay.
And with my friends, we were like really attracted by also that kind of new culture. But at that time in Toulouse, there was already like a group of writers, maybe only 3, 4, 5 people. There was Tupan, who became my mentor. There was this guy Deklik. There was some Mosquito, some old school writers, and they already started painting Toulouse and doing tags, not through ups, but they were starting to paint really good for that time. Okay. And as a teenager, I was like, wow, okay, what is that? It's crazy. There was like an abandoned place where they did the big pieces, the masterpieces, and I was 16. And I was like amazed by this new thing that I never saw before, except on those skateboard videos. And I was like, okay, I want to meet those guys. What is that? I want to try this. So I was living in a project in the neighborhood of suburbs in Toulouse. So with 2 of my friends, we started to do stupid tags basically in the parking lot or like in the basements. And after that we went downtown to take lots of pictures, because at that time I didn't see Spreken art, subway art, nothing. It was totally new for me.
Why you take the pictures?
Just because I saw that was so crazy, because I never saw that before. That looks something like a little bit like skateboarding, like a sort of I don't know, secret society, you know.
But the skateboard, you found it live, like you saw it in your city, or you saw it on the videos?
No, I saw that in my city, because Toulouse was one very big city for skateboarding with Paris. We had at that time we had the biggest skate park in France. So that means all the professional teams, skateboarders, when they did like European tour, they did Paris, Toulouse, because we had the giant skate park. And I met the kind of pioneers of skateboard in my hometown. So that was really important for me to do something that is, how you say that, you know, like a subculture. So when I was a kid, that was what really interested me. I was into this idea of doing something special, something that nobody else was doing. So at that time, there was maybe 20 skateboarders and 10 graffiti writers. So I was attracted by that, the idea of doing something super special.
Okay.
Yeah.
The connection between graffiti and skateboard, what was it like? You were skateboarding and you moved to graffiti, or this went parallel in the beginning?
At the beginning, that was parallel.
Okay, so you were skateboarding and you were painting around.
Not at the beginning. I was shy and I was scared, so I was only painting the skateboard ramps or my skateboard, the boards. But I sketch a lot, because I noticed by the style that the old school people had in my hometown, that was so good. It looks, to be honest, it looks a little bit like a Bando Mod 2 shoe style. So I was 16 and I was like, okay, I cannot do that. So I think the only way would be to draw a lot, to try to have something correct. And one day I thought it was correct, but I really thought, because it was shitty. It was really shitty, but I was like, hey, that's a nice sketch. Now I can go and paint. That was a terrible piece, but for me, that was, hey, that's not so bad. And I was like, okay, now I can go, because I was, like you said, I was in the suburbs with my friends. So I decided to go downtown to try to meet the writers. And I was really lucky, because they were really cool, because there were only 5 people. So when they see the young generation coming, they were like, okay, come.
They were welcoming.
Oh yeah, super welcoming, super nice.
Not gatekeeping and say, yeah,
no. That happened later with the Parisian old school people. But at that time in my hometown, they were like, okay, come, I'm gonna show you stuff. So one of the guy, Tupan, he introduced me to subway art, to Spreken art, to all the things, and I was like, what the fuck? I thought that was like a bunch of guys doing crazy paintings, like they saw maybe also in skateboard movies, I don't know. And so I realized it was like a big culture, and that was something true, like deep, and I was like, what the fuck? So at that moment, I was still skateboarding a lot, but I realized there was something special, like with graffiti. And then I started tagging, and so go around the city doing tags, and then yeah, that was done, you know. And from that moment, I think I went a little bit slower on skateboarding, and I did a lot of stuff, like, because I was introduced by a classic graffiti writer. I think I start really a classic way.
So what is the definition of a classic way?
For me, the classic way was doing everything. Like, I wasn't doing nice pieces only, or only tagging or big block letters, freeways, trains. So I was thinking, to do graffiti, you have to do everything.
Okay.
So that means lots of sketch. That means lots of different styles.
Yeah, because I think for the different people, it's different understanding of what is the classic and what is everything. Because some people start in a different ways, different I think different channel of influence. Maybe you see on the movie they paint the trains, or if you see maybe just the skate videos, you probably just see the skate ramps and you think that graffiti belongs there. But you had a mentor in the beginning. Like, first of all, you had the chance to meet some people who were friendly towards you as a youngster, and that they show you probably how to paint. Maybe they explain you the do and the don'ts.
Yeah, also, yeah, with their philosophy at that time, that I think was a good one. So they were friendly with young people. They learned graffiti with Spreken art, subway art. So they were doing some trains, but at that time that wasn't a big trend. So they were doing probably only freights, but they were doing like big walls. They were doing everything. And so yeah, I started with those guys, and especially with this guy Tupon, and from then I really had like maybe, I don't know, 5 years of painting that way. That means doing tagging, doing a little bit of throw-ups, lots of silver letters, and then we started trains, because when we saw subway art we were like, okay, walls are cool, but trains look like fucking amazing. And then we saw Style Wars and we're like, oh, okay, the ambience was crazy, and the relation with skateboarding was also like normal, you know. When we were skateboarding, the audience was mainly against us. We were destroying the public the concrete. We were noisy, we were like wearing strange style and clothes, so that was really an outsider thing. So doing graffiti was
counterculture, like against the main thing. So this goes,
for me, that was the continuation. You know, that was really similar at that time.
Graffiti continuation of skateboard.
For me, yeah, that was really like a continuation. And then the good thing was that starting to do trains, walls, painting by day, painting by night, I was so into it that it became like my new lifestyle in connection with skateboarding.
By this time they were still parallel going together.
Like I was doing both.
Skateboarding and graffiti. So we're talking about, you have started in 1988.
Doing tags, and then in 1990 I found my name, Tilt, because before that I got stupid names, and then I got Tilt.
And Tilt is a smart name.
No, I don't think so. But the thing is that when I started, one of the guy was painting, the Tupon partner, name was Declic, Declic, and in French, Declic is like when you got an ID. When you say I had a Declic, that means I had like an ID. So I like, when I was walking in Toulouse, to see those names that pop. I was okay. I'm gonna try to find a name that is close to this. And then I realized that was a big mistake, because Tilt is the worst tag ever. Because of the letters. It's only bars, it's only straight stuff. It's terrible. When you ask, I remember when I asked even super good taggers from that time, Bates, 123 Clan, even us Gemeos, they were like, oh fuck, your tag is super hard, man. I was like, I know. So that's why I didn't do that much tag, except at the beginning I was doing Tilt with 2 E.
Mm-hmm. Is it connected to the word tilt?
No.
How comes?
No, it was just because tilt, the same in France, there is an expression that says ça m'a fait tilt, and when you say ça m'a fait tilt, that's the same thing. It's like when Homer Simpson got an ID, it makes tilt. So, but yeah, then I realized that the letters are terrible, and I think
two of the same letter. terrible, and I think that's why after a couple of years, maybe 10 years, not a couple of years, but after such time, I realized that I need to go close to something that is rounded, that is bubble, than throw-ups, because my letters were so straight bars in the beginning that I was frustrated, you know. And so I did wild style. With wild style it was okay, but I felt like even in my tag that to get some flow was really complicated compared to my friend Tober, they got the R at the end, some S, and I was like, wow man, flow is cool, but with TILT, no flow. Why did you keep the name?
I don't know, because I was I was attached to it at one point, and then people they start to call me Tilt. I was like, okay, why not?
Maybe it was this.
Yeah. Hey, Tilt. I was, hey, cool, okay, Tilt.
Fuck,
That was fuck, I'm Tilt now. That's the new me. Big mistake.
Fuck, I already have the tattoo.
I get the tattoo for the next 30 years. Okay, I'm fucked.
No, because graffiti you can choose your name and you can change it.
And I should have changed. Yeah.
Yeah, but then why you kept it?
I changed sometimes when I was doing trains and I was doing too much trains in my city. I changed like everybody. I changed name. To confuse the enemy. So I did some win, W-I-N. I was like, oh, super W is so fun. But then I came back to Tilt at the end. Yeah.
Okay, so you decided to keep it, even though the letters was.
No matter the letter, like I told you, when I was tagging a lot at the beginning, I did T-E-E-L-T, so I can have a double E. Okay. That was cool for something rounded, or T-E-A-L-T.
You're telling me now, okay, from square letters to rounded and searching for rounded. You're going to the throw up. You mean you're searching for the connection of the throw up, or
not yet.
No. So it's why did you want the letters to be rounded and not square? You didn't like the square letters.
There was one point when I felt the movement of when I was painting looked a little bit like something too straight or too much like I was feeling that I was working, like that I have to do nice lines.
Don't call it German.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But my the way I learned graffiti now I realize was a little bit German, in a way. You have to learn everything, the 3D stuff, the fill-in this way, the starlight, the highlights, super classic. So at one point when I did a lot, I realized, okay, graffiti, I think I'm going to do that for a long time, so I need to have fun doing it. And having fun doing it, when I was doing with like some Parisian crews, or when I was going to New York painting with T-Kid and all those guys, and I saw all those styles, I was able to do the same. But at one point, when I was going out at night doing throw-ups, I realized that when I was having fun, that was that part of my graffiti. Nighttime, throw-ups, no pressure, don't have to do the perfect outline, don't have to match the color with the guy on your left-hand side. The freedom of painting throw-up by myself at night made me change the way I was doing my daytime graffiti. And then I turned...
What were the daytime graffiti? They were different?
Yeah, they were different because...
Authorized graffiti, like legal?
Yeah, not for sure legal, but when you do like... Yeah, kind of legal, but even like some other pieces, like on trains, when I was doing trains, I was doing like kind of complicated stuff. But there was that point when I realized, okay, if you want to keep on doing graffiti, and you need to enjoy and you need to have fun. So the fun was so intense when I was doing throw-ups that I tried to connect those two graffiti, the daytime and the nighttime, together.
Okay, but why they are separated? I mean, what is the thing by the daytime and the thing by the nighttime? I don't understand why it's where it's the separation in your mind. Like what?
In my mind, the separation was, I think, about the performance. Like to perform graffiti doing throw-ups, you have to do a lot. Okay. To perform graffiti in daytime with people who are doing style and big concept walls. At that time, there was like the big trend of people doing, big walls like Dime and Toast, and those German people were doing like crazy styles with sceneries. Yeah. That's why I was telling you it was for me sometimes connected to almost like working,
Okay, pressure, basically.
Yeah, almost pressure, and thinking that the final result need to be good, need to be perfect, the lines need to be nice, the colors need to pop, and all this kind of pressure. For me, that was totally disconnected with what was my throw-up night activity. So I wanted to be connected with like, okay, if I have fun doing throw-ups, I want to have fun doing pieces. Okay. And then I turn, not doing throw-ups, of course, but I turn into something more bubble, more simple, more fun, even the colors, the shapes, no more like complicated backgrounds. So I was influenced by my nighttime paintings for my pieces, I guess.
So from what I understand is like by whatever you're doing by night, if it was only throw-ups or tags or etc., it's like you found some kind of a freedom there.
Totally.
The freedom that was, for example, different from what you call like daytime graffiti, which you are following basically, correct me if I'm wrong, like you're following the rules of the unwritten rules or what you call classic or what is coming from the mentorship or what the scene is doing. So maybe in the daytime you were doing what they expect you to do or what the others were doing, so you kind of understood that you don't like it.
The thing was, I had a mentor, I saw books, I felt I was the new generation of a culture, and at that time the people who were doing like anti-style, they just beginning, like PA in Barcelona, Meli in Amsterdam. That was exactly at that time. I think that was 93, something like that. When we saw that from our classic background, we were like, okay, who's those guys? They are fucking crazy. They are doing like a giant eye with a little point of the eye with giant 3D. Meli was for us, it was like, for me, that was like a crazy guy doing like stupid things. Okay. There was one point where I started to so enjoying only doing throw-ups that it became not a problem, but it became like something so evident to me that, when I want to do graffiti, if I listen to myself, the only thing I want to do is doing throw-ups. Okay. So at one point, after maybe 20, 25 years, I was thinking, okay, do I enjoy doing a sketch? Not that much. Okay. Do I enjoy spending 5 hours somewhere with 25 cans doing like a piece? Not like I used to do. So what happened if I only do throw-ups? What happened if I only focus on that? Not because I want, but just because I feel that's the only thing that's gonna make me happy. And so then I started to do only throw-ups. And until now, if I don't have friends who tell me, hey, you don't want to do like a classic piece, or okay, let's do a train, except those cases, if I listen to myself, graffiti today is throw-up. So it's a bit restrictive, but
for you,
not for me. I think for people, like they say, okay, he's only doing throw-ups, but for me, my feeling, if it's 1 o'clock and I want to go to paint, I want to do throw-ups. For the gesture, for the feeling, for the ambience, for how fast it is, for the feeling of, I don't know, being outside and embracing the environment of graffiti, but only with the fun part, I guess.
Okay. Let's take a side.
Yes.
So what is a throw-up? I want the book reference. I want to understand what for you is a throw-up.
Throw-up is like fast letters made. Almost each letter would be made with one line, kind of super fast. You don't think about having something clean inside. You don't think about something clean for the outline. The flow need to be kind of rounded, but sometimes it can be square now and with spikes and stuff. I would say the idea of doing a lot and the idea of doing fast and the idea doing with a freedom of moves is important, and to have something recognizable. Okay. That's the way I learn it, and that's the way I like it. I love people who are changing their throw-up quite often, adding some flow in one letter, in another letter. But I also like the idea of this throw-up is in evolution, but only step by step, little by little. It looks the same from 2026 to 2025, but not from 1985, for example.
You speak about your throw up.
Yeah, I talk about mine. Yeah.
What was the definition of a throw up when you started graffiti? What your mentor told you, or what did you read? What did you understand? Like how came the encounter for you with the? I want to know how you started with the throw up, like from tag to throw up to piece to 3D to train. Like where did you find the throw up and what?
Alors, the funny thing is that the definition of throw up for me at the beginning, that was almost bad because there was Cap in Style Wars. Okay. So this guy who was destroying the nice pieces of New York by throw up, telling that
destroying, he was making them better.
yeah, I don't care about the best is the most and not the nicest. I was like, okay, but at the same time, this guy who looked not really cool, who was the bad boy, the flow and the style to me was crazy. There was already this idea of freedom. You know, those people that were doing Mickey Mouse, whole cars, crazy styles, Case 2, computer styles, many colors, skimmy, crazy letters, Dundee, Scene, all those people. And there was that guy doing this kind of dirty thing, super fast, not clean, but with something really related to freedom. That, I think, even at that time, was impressing me. You know?
Okay. Tell me how did it evolve and how the definition changed, if it changed. Because you say, okay, it started bad, I saw a Cap and it was like not the best example, so you probably have something in your mind like, okay, this is not my thing, like this is bad. So how the definition and the understanding of throw up changed through the time where you are, because now you are completely throw up?
It changed because I noticed that also the idea of throw up was also a special style. You know, for me, at the beginning, when I saw Cap and I saw throw-ups on some dirty New York subway cars, that wasn't related to a style almost. That was for me, those people who were doing nice pieces. If they have 1 or 2 cans left, they would do a throw-up. You know, not like a real graffiti, like something you do to finish your cans. Okay. But then I realized that when I saw in some other books, even Paris Tonkar, long time ago, I saw even classic writers, like Motu, for example, who was for me like the classic French writer, crazy characters, super nice letters. He was also doing throw-ups with a 93 NTM. I was like, wow, okay. So then I realized it was a style, and not only for the bad guys crossing and going over pieces in New York. Then I start sketching throw-ups at that time. Maybe that was 93, 94. It was ugly throw-up. And then 94, I went to New York for the first time. Okay. And then I realized, because in 94, New York, there was throw-ups everywhere. Lots of style, like really good style, like VE, SN, even Cop 2 at that time, Ghost, so many, even Scene, so many crazy throw-ups in the street that I was like, wow, that's a real style. Like it looks like people are only doing this. And then I sketched my first Tilt throw-up, the one that looks the same today.
You invented it?
Yeah. From stuff that I saw in New York with those more spikes at the beginning, at the end, but also really rounded, and the fit-in. And then I started my first throw-up in '94 on a rooftop in New York. And then from then it really changed, because when I came back to Toulouse, and I was happy to paint the subway. I was happy to do walls with New Yorkers. But the most important thing was, okay, I found that thing that I felt so comfortable with, so happy doing it, that I knew it's going to change something in the way I'm going to practice graffiti.
You found something?
I found something in the street, like for my eyes, but I also found something that was new in my practice of graffiti, you know, and I say, okay, I want to try this, I want to do more.
And what was it? Like some people say, okay, this is my style reduced to a logo. This is something that it means me by, you can see all the flow into the throw-ups, like you can hear people writing, explaining throw-ups in any level of intellectuality.
That was kind of
it's so you go to the place and you see, okay, what is being up is like, if you go now to Marseille, let's say, you see the rappels and you will be completely crazy about rappelling. Yes, but you go to New York in 94, you see the throw-ups and you're like, okay, this is it. So then you sketch your throw-up, you start to do throw-ups, and what happens? What did you realize there? But what was the emotion? What was the thing? Is like, okay, this I see in you, we have obsession of ears. There is something that you found there, and what was it?
Yeah, that was, like you said, that was an obsession, you know. I think I was frustrated with my fucking name, Tilt, that was so hard to tag for me, that I finally find a way in between piecing and tagging. So I can do that thing fast with flow that really pleased me. So for me that was like a big change, you know, like it was almost like if I was able to tag again, but with a throw-up. Then the obsession, like the feeling of doing it, the speed, and this iconic stuff. When I was in New York, when I saw Guise, when I saw all those guys, I feel like this, visual identity that you don't necessarily have when you do a piece, because the piece is supposed to change. You do a sketch, okay, if you do another piece, you need to change the piece. If not, people will say, hey, this fucking writer is lazy, you know, he did the same piece last week. Why is doing the same style with new colors? He is lazy. When you do throw-up, you can be lazy. You can be like, this is the same one, I'm gonna do again and again and again.
It's cheating.
Yeah, exactly. It's cheating, but I like it.
No, this is being lazy, but it's allowed in the graffiti world. Exactly, This is where you're allowed to be lazy.
Finally, I felt allowed to be lazy. This I like.
Legal lazy.
Legal lazy. Yeah, that's a nice name. Okay. So that was cool for me, and I was like, okay, that was the beginning of no pressure in my paintings. And then, like you said, the obsession. And then I realized I want to do it. And the more I was doing it, the more I want to do it. Like the repetition. In 97, I remember I forced myself to do one per day. I say, okay, 1997, I'm going to do 365 throw-up. Let's see what happened. So every day I was doing one
throw-up per day. Like you
one per day. Yeah, at the end of the year, I wanted to have 365. Sometimes it was raining too bad, so I was staying home, and the next day I was doing 2, you know, I was cheating again. But then...
No, the rules were clear. It was 300, it was not a piece per day, it was 365. Okay, you can do it in one day, boom. Yeah. It's just 11 pieces per second.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there was something simple, there was something chill that I really, really appreciate at that time. And this feeling of being everywhere in the city, like really old city, because when you do 365 in 97, where it doesn't buff that much, in a small city like Toulouse, you are everywhere. And that feeling, we were talking about ego, that ego feeling was, fuck, that's cool, I am everywhere. Like I'm in this rooftop, I am that truck, I'm that wall. Okay, all mine. This is my city, finally. Even my grandma, who was taking the bus to go downtown the city, she recognized my throw-up, and she thought it was a bird, because it began like this, it finished like that. So, I saw your birds everywhere when I was going to, and I was like, even my grandma, she liked my throw-up. Okay, perfect, that's good.
This means it becomes recognizable.
Exactly, like a visual identity.
She's not reading it. She don't tell you, I read your name everywhere. She say, I see your birds. Yeah, exactly. So people see the birds. I also see wings.
And you know the funny thing, one day when I did those 365, I did a piece. It was a collage with 100 throw-up, like photographs. And to separate the photographs, I just cross in between the pictures with white paint, like white acrylic, to put them in a white frame. And when she saw that piece, she told me, "Why did you put the birds in the cage?" And I said, "Fuck, that's funny how like a grandma can see so differently your throw-ups." I wasn't putting them in a cage. I was like putting them in a frame. Like, hey, look, they are nice. They are in a frame. They are an art piece. Yeah, that was funny.
Have you broken down the throw up to make yourself understanding what actually means? I'm asking this for another perspective, to explain the construct of the throw up, because throw up is after tag and before piece, masterpiece, what's that? For me, long time ago, I understood that the hierarchy is not built like this. It's not chronological, and it's like you cannot put the throw up under the pieces, because some people like you have put the throw up above the pieces. For me, when I look at the throw ups, what I see is like, okay, first of all, you have more colors than tags. I mean, of course, you can do tag with more colors. You can beat this argument, but it's like, okay, first of all, it's like a solid thing that can be called a logo, that can be called a flag, and it can have a shape that can change. And as you say, the masters there, it's evolving, or even not even the toys, it's evolving. Like you repeat the shape, but the shape changes. I can see your throw ups, they change. Like they were more squeezed, they start to get fat, they ate well through the year. So it changes. It's the same letters, you can see the skeleton is the same, but it has more meat inside, it has more fat. And this logo, it becomes what you say. It's amazing with your granny, that she say, it's the birds. Like, so this is the proof that it's a logo. It's something figurative. It's no longer TILT. It's like she see the birds, and wherever she goes and see, oh look, he painted the bird so far, so high. It's on a rooftop. It's amazing. I took a little side quest on this, but where were you? 94,
in New York.
Yes. And then you did the 365, and then what?
Then what? Then I was still doing both from 97 to 2004, 2005, 6 maybe. But the more I was doing throw up, the less I was doing pieces. Sometimes, of course, I like to do a big silver block letter somewhere. Sometimes, for the feeling, I like to do like a piece on a train. Sometimes this, but like I told you, if I am honest with myself, the more fun and the more close I feel to do graffiti is when I'm doing throw up. So it become to be like a ritual, like doing that, only that. And then from that moment, I think I also, because I love photography a lot, I also realized that if I am doing throw ups, like you said, I want to find the good spot. Also, I like to do throw ups everywhere, but if I'm doing like 500 throw ups per year, I don't want to have like 500 stupid pictures of my throw up in the middle of everyone and on bad photography conditions. So I started to also think about the spot, and it became like a game to find like the nice rusted gate, the nice background, the nice color on the side, the nice abandoned building that is just turning down. So I also enjoy combining this painting and where is this painting? That it became really important to me. The environment, Okay. That was really important. Then in 1999. I started with some skateboarders. We did like a European tour that was sponsored by some brands, and that was super cool. So we were following some competitions, and they took skateboards competitions, and I was with them. And then so we started from Paris, and we went to Belgium, and we stopped in a skate park in Belgium, and painting the ramp. I was doing a throw up with the flag of Belgium, just the colors of the flag. And then I was, but that's cool, because we're gonna go for a European tour. what if I do like a German flag in Germany and a Danish flag in Copenhagen, and was like, oh, that's going to be cool, but it's going to be cool for the tour, because then the people who were doing the pictures for the magazines for the skateboard tour, they could put some throw-ups to mention where was that. Yeah. So when this is a skateboard ramp with a Danish flag of Tilt, that's going to be in Christiania in Copenhagen. Yeah. So I was doing that, not thinking about having this project becoming bigger and important to me. But after those 10 countries, I came back to Toulouse and I was so happy to see the Tilt with the flags that I was thinking, hey, what if you do that everywhere you travel? Yeah. And so I started this new obsession of traveling almost sometimes for throw-ups. Okay. So like I want to go in vacation with my girlfriend. Let's say we go to Panama. I'm like, wow, super cool. We go to Panama.
Nice flag they have.
New flag. It's cool with the stars. Oh, perfect. But that's not the obsession point. The obsession point is if I flew to Panama.
Just to make the throw up?
Just to go to vacation with my girlfriend and happy to do a new throw up. What's around? What if I leave my girlfriend in the hotel maybe only for 2 days? Which country can I go? Which country got a nice flag? So I'm going to take a flight ticket to go to Barbados in the Highland just because the flag is crazy. I go there, I do the flag, I come back to see my girlfriend. So sometimes when I want to go somewhere, she's like, okay, do you want to go there because of the flag or do you want us to go to vacation, you know? And so, so today I did like 72 countries and I'm like, okay, I want to do more. I want to go there to do my girlfriend. We went to Croatia and I said, okay, can we go to Bosnia and can we go to Montenegro? Say, okay. I got caught in Bosnia painting by the police. I was painting like an old police station, but I didn't notice it was an old police station. So I got caught. There was a problem. My girlfriend was so stressed out. She thought I'm going to go to jail. She's going to be lost in Bosnia. So she said, okay, don't do that again. So I said, okay, next time I do Kosovo, Bulgaria and Macedonia, I will do it by myself.
Yeah, this expands. I mean, okay, you have the throw up, then you're adding more and more context to it. It's exactly. Like then it grows to different concepts and it's maybe so where it goes from there. Are we coming to today time or there is more? What is let's view the timeline first because I want those to go on a side question.
No, it's still today my let's say my studio work is not connected to throw-up, but it's not really connected to throw-up, but it's connected to illegal graffiti traces in the city and traces made by people who are trying to clean those tags and throw-ups. So it's a kind connected.
Let's actually go to the studio work and I will maybe return back. When did you start the studio work? So we can map it on the timeline.
I start studio work, let's say, I studied quickly in 91 because there was a big exhibition in Paris. Okay. The first post-graffiti exhibition in Europe. Mm-hmm. That was a big one and that was, for me, I was almost a beginner, only 2-3 years painting. I saw that, I was like, okay, that's something I didn't understand before. I understand there was throw-up, tags, trains, whole cars, freights, walls, everything, but I didn't understand there was also canvases. So when I saw all those canvases, like Futura, all those people, I was, okay, it's cool. I can also paint maybe on canvas. So I did a couple of canvases at that time. 91. Oh. Then I stopped because it was too small. The material was different. I didn't know how to do. I was really copying some Futura stuff or some other people's stuff, maybe John Wan at that time. And I was saying, okay, it's not fun enough, go back to graffiti. And then I think beginning of 2000, I got the opportunity to show my work in Australia and in New Zealand. It was 2004. I did 2 shows there, and then I started to do studio work in Purpose. Okay. And then from that, I also enjoy doing stuff in the studio because it was completely different. It was more not selfish, but I wasn't obliged to consider what was doing the other writer next to me. I can do something totally free.
Okay.
Not so. I start the studio work.
Studio work is not under the jurisdiction of
For me, that was
Graffiti
different. No, for me, that was different. Yeah.
Old schooler, OG mentor cannot come and tell you, yeah, what you do in the graffiti. So okay, so this means the art world is free.
Yeah. They can say it's gay, and I'm like, okay, no problem, it's gay.
but this means it's free, more free than graffiti.
That's what I felt. Yeah, and that was crazy because I always also felt at that time that from the graffiti perspective, doing canvases or painting in your studio, that wasn't something not respectful, but that was something, of course, less respectful than a whole car. If you do a canvas, it's just a canvas. That's true, but at that time, I also felt that's only a canvas, but that's a piece that I can enjoying more freedom. Because, like you say, the OG, the old school, the architects, they cannot, they can, but if they criticize that, I can say, okay, it's not graffiti, it's my studio work. If you want to criticize my graffiti, look at my last piece. You like, you don't like, this is something more personal. I think you cannot judge that. I can put more personal stuff.
There is the other OGs that they just.
Of course. There's always another OG that will criticize.
There it comes the art critics that they come and they say, "Oh, this is my god, this is shit. This is not art. You haven't been to art school. Have you been to art school?"
No, I did like a graphic school, but not art school.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you connect graffiti to the art world?
This is super complicated, to be honest. Even when I try to explain to somebody, when I think about how I did it or how this happened, even for me it's complicated. The only thing I know, and from what you said, is like there was one moment where I was thinking painting not as something serious, but something close to my graffiti, and that I want to be able to live from my passion or to be able to live from my hobby. But quite fast, I felt something wrong. Like you said, when we say you're gonna be a sellout, I felt that. I felt when I was doing with my bubble letters, I was doing accumulation of bubbles, doing some figurative stuff. Sometimes that can be a mask or a spray can, but sometimes that could have been like let's say like a cartoon or something like that. And when I was painting this, and that was before the big thing of street art, that was just, let's say, I think it was just before that, I was thinking there is something wrong. So what I'm painting doesn't show what I experimenting, doesn't show how can you tell it? It doesn't feel honest to myself, and to the culture that I love, that is graffiti.
Was it, excuse me to interrupt you, was it the approach that you had?
I think that, no, I think the approach was honest.
Okay.
That was the result that to me doesn't look honest. That looks easy, simple, cheesy. The approach for me was okay. I decided, okay, let's say if I want to do art, what could be singular, what could be personal? I'm a graffiti writer, I want to use letters. That has been like the most important part of what I am doing for the last 20 years. If we talk about 2004 when I was doing the show, what if I want to show people where my art is coming from? Okay, let's try to work with letters. So I did those bubble letters that I was putting together to do things and to do canvases. At that point, I think I was really honest, even with myself, that I don't want to becoming I'm a big fan of Os Gemios, of course. Not only for the graffiti part, even if I think they have great throw-up, great pieces, great tags, great everything, great trains. But even for the figurative stuff, I didn't want to go that way. I didn't want to go a way that doesn't show, except when, for example, they show people going to paint a train. It talk about my culture. When they show a nice woman with a rainbow and she got a little boat on her hand with people, I can feel, okay, what is the connection with our culture? Something is missing. So I was thinking, I want to do something 100% graffiti. So let's do letters. But the final result sometimes to me look not fake, but too simple, too cheesy. And so I try to find something more real, more simple, more original. And original, yeah. And from that perspective, I was thinking, okay, what is the more original and what is the more pure expression for me of graffiti is what's happened in the street. And what's happened in the street, people are painting, and what's happened in the street, people are buffing. So what if I use those images to create pieces, to create painting? And what if those images of buffing and of traces of graffiti, not the whole piece, but like a focus, a zoom, what if those images become landscapes? So I decided to put on different layers those close-up of a piece of a throw-up, a piece of a tag, a piece of a buff, and then I start to do construction of landscape painting from images of what's happened in the street. And from that I was thinking, okay, I'm talking about, for me, the purest thing of what's happened in graffiti. Train for me is the next level, but the buffing is so fast. It's really hard to be close, except if you produce them. It's really hard, especially in France and more especially in Toulouse, to be able to get the traces of that thing. So I was thinking, okay, and I'm traveling a lot, so I'm gonna take images all around the world of what happened if they buff in Panama, what happened if they buff in Tokyo, super clean, what's those traces left behind by graffiti production and buffing production mixed together. Can I do paintings with that? And then from that moment, then I was thinking, okay, now I think I am honest. And so I produced paintings, and I felt at the beginning of that the hard world was more receptive. And I say, okay, there is something that might look like what we know, like abstract painting.
Okay, for the visual.
For the visual, yeah, for the final production.
Yeah, okay.
It can look like the painting that we know, because it can be connected to Hans Hartung, Katharina Gross, Gerhard Richter, like even Juan Miro sometimes. It can be connected to classic painting, classic contemporary art, but there is something behind that is different. Okay. And it's just the environment and the culture. So I think because I find this bridge, then people, they started, and it's still complicated sometimes, but they started to be okay to listen and to try to understand. And that was the connection. I think that's the connection.
Oh, so you find a connection between these two things. You think they're connected?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think they can listen.
Do you force connect it?
No.
Not intentionally. Not you. For you, it's like, okay, tomorrow would you start doing something that is not related to graffiti?
I don't feel it. This is not my story. I think, as I am 53, I think if you are an artist at 53, the most important thing today is to be honest. And if I am honest, I didn't do big art school. My culture, my visual culture is coming from graffiti and traveling. So if I want to be honest, that's what I want to show and what I want to talk about. So I think it's funny because I feel the more restricted you go, the more free and open it is. If you find that little point that you think it's you, and in an honest way, from that you can open almost to everything.
Could this be also a definition of a throw up?
That can be exactly, yeah, the purest thing, and then that can becoming everything, and it can be your next production of graffiti for the rest of your life. So yeah, it's really connected.
Okay.
And like you said, I want to try to keep those connected. I feel I would be that sellout if tomorrow I keep on showing the same kind of paintings I'm doing in my studio, and if today I come in Athens with you and I don't paint in the street, I will feel like almost not I'm lying, but that I'm not connected enough to say, okay, what I'm showing you is also what I'm doing.
What is the feedback about from the both thing that you get? Do you care about the feedback?
Yeah, I care, because I think the more honest you be, the more vulnerable you are. Yeah. If I think, maybe I'm wrong, but if I'm thinking I'm really honest, if I'm thinking what I'm showing is true, the feedback are really important. If somebody that I can talk to seriously doesn't get it, and if it's somebody from the art world or from the graffiti world, if I talk to you and I tell, listen, Boris, I don't care to that about pissing, I'm obsessed by throw up, and you tell me, Tilt, throw up is done, it's nothing, we don't consider that in graffiti anymore, you have to do whole cars, it's done, it's shit. I understand you do only throw ups, but to me it doesn't, it's not part of graffiti, and I would be so sad. And I mean, okay, I thought you been part of the same culture, but you are telling me that what I'm doing with so much passion is shit. I would be like, okay, maybe I'm on the wrong way. If I talk with an art critic and I explain everything what I'm doing, where it's coming from, why today I am painting that way, where I want to go, what I want to show. If this guy who knows the art history is telling me, to me, this is not contemporary art. To me, it's shit. I would feel offended, and I would feel kind of sad.
Okay, but I mean, like, you can literally find both people, they exist and they will tell you this. You cannot be ever liked by everyone.
No, of course, of course.
Sure, people
but
are criticizing.
if everybody's telling me the same thing, the good thing is that sometimes I'm going to be in front of a guy who say, oh man, I don't understand. To me, the relation with this and that is not really clear, blah, blah, blah. But then I'm going to talk with like a big art historian or like an art critic who's going to tell me, hey, what I see in your painting is the heritage of that guy, the heritage of this. To me, when you paint that way, that means that you are doing that connection with the art history, then I feel, okay. It's just when they're telling me what I feel, or when they are telling me what I think, that make me feel, okay, I'm in the good way. When you tell me, okay, for me, you threw up is nice today, even if I didn't see it for the last 30 years, I'm like, okay, I'm on the good way from a graffiti perspective and from a graffiti expert or from a graffiti actor like you or lover. I'm like, okay, cool. He's not telling me like, man, I don't understand the shape of your letters. To me, it's not a throw up. Why do you put a shadow? It's not like this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
is art continuation of the graffiti? Or is it a parallel thing?
To me, I thought for many years that was parallel, that was kind of different. And recently I realized, and talking with a girl who is an art critic and I'm working with for many years, that are always talking about schizophrenia. Then I was telling her, okay, when I'm in the studio, when I'm trying to produce an art piece, I think I'm that guy. When I go outside and I do throw up, I'm the other guy. Okay. And she, at the beginning, she didn't want to tell me that she felt I was wrong. She was just listening to me. And for the last couple of years, because my work is getting close to what I'm doing with the throw up stuff, she started to tell me, but you know, you should stop about this schizophrenic approach, you know, because for her, what I'm doing is the same thing. And who am I is the same guy. And what I want to tell and what I want to produce is kind of the same thing. That's her idea. And sometimes I agree with that. And at the same time, when I am in the middle of people from a museum, the way they talk, the way they even talk about my paintings, and I feel I'm in another world, you know. Yeah. And if I am with writers and we talk about graffiti, then I feel I am not in the same world that those museum and gallerist people. So I don't know. It's still for me very moving. Yeah,
it's fluid.
Yeah, exactly. It's totally fluid, because sometimes you will find one guy that can totally understand both worlds. If you talk to Henry Chalfant, he understands totally both worlds. He's coming from graffiti culture. He's in love with tags and throw-ups and the bad things of graffiti, and his love for trains is huge, and his culture is huge. But he's also really into art, but theater, literature, everything. And he would be able to do a perfect connection between both worlds. But those people are pretty rare.
This you can also see, like people do one thing on the street and they have one attitude, they have another attitude in the gallery, and this
yeah. Even the work is totally different.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it can be in a good way to have the difference. Because I told you before, I like you because you have both things work for me together, visually and story, and speaking to you and seeing you and following your work, and I can say, okay, this guy, he's not pretending, he's not faking it, he's not trying something else. It's like, okay, you're trying, some people are trying to make it and on the street and in the gallery, but it's not working because it's not honest. For me, it's just not honest. It's like either trying to hard.
This word is really important, I think. Honesty.
Yes.
Honest is one of the most important words when you try to be in those both worlds. I think so.
How you make it? Tell the kids, you know, tell the toys, tell the super kings, tell the OGs that they sit for 2 hours to listen to you what you have to say. It's like, tell them what to do. It's like, what is the advice you want to give them?
But to be honest, that's what I would say. Yeah, and sometimes some people, they come to my studio. Recently, a guy came to my studio. He's a really good graffiti artist. He's doing amazing throw-ups, amazing style. He's really good, and he's working like doing decoration stuff. You know, not street art, but he's doing decoration stuff with graffiti. And he came to my studio and asked me, okay, what if I want to make a living out of my real paintings? If I want to become an artist, what would be your advices? And I remember the first thing that I told him is, okay, you need to find something that is really close to you, to what you want to show. So yeah, just basically be honest. So if you think, okay, I do this canvas, if I add a little Alec Monopoly or a little Louis Vuitton sign on this canvas, would it sell better? Yes. Would you feel honest putting this Louis Vuitton sign on your canvas? No, don't put it.
Yeah. But I want to know, for you personally, like when you speak with collectors or with the people from the art world, what do you tell them about throw-ups?
Actually, sometimes I don't even talk about throw-ups. You know, I talk about my paintings, I talk where my paintings are coming from, and then from that, I talk about something more bigger than that, which is, traces left by an alternative human activity in the street. So that can be like a kid in front of a Morocco school that's gonna find a chalk and gonna write a name or draw a dick, you know. Yeah. From that trace to like a pure throw-up, a pure graffiti piece that's gonna be buffed or that's gonna be damaged by time. So I'm talking more about that. If they ask more, and if they ask me, because most of the time when you talk with art people, especially when you are 53 and you are exhibiting let's say in a nice museum or like a nice art center, to them, you don't paint anymore in the street. They'll be like, oh, this is an artist. But usually the question is like, but do you still paint in the street?
You mean this question
It's coming all the time. They always, but and it's more like the question usually is more like, but you don't paint anymore in the street, because you paint here. And I'm like, yes, and but you paint sometimes, and I say, no, I try to paint a lot. What do you mean a lot? And I say, for example, last year I did 500 through up, which is like a painting by night, and be like, oh, but it's almost every day. And I say, not every day, but a lot. And I'd be like, okay. And now we start to talk about why am I keep on doing this, and what is the connection with the painting they are looking at, which is interesting. The funny thing is that maybe they hate through up, they hate tags in their neighborhood. But when you try to explain the connection, how pure the through up is, what does it mean in our culture, what does it mean even for young people today to do through ups in the street, they'd be like, wow, it's really interesting, and now they understand a little bit more what this painting is talking about, and it's usually it's always constructive,
The perspective changes because of the environment.
Totally. Here it's okay.
No, let's go down. You paint a throw up, and we start to. I will stop asking people when I was them, okay, what do you think? Do you like? This is a famous artist from France, 53 years old. They will be like, yeah, what the fuck? Why he paints?
It's so simple. It's dirty. Why is doing that outside?
Exactly. He will go to jail, or I will call the police. They will not like it. They will be like, stop it. And if it's this is the environment of the street. Yeah. So for sure the commentary it will be one when we are in the white box. And we are standing in front of a throw up, not in front of your contemporary painting. Same throw up. We put it in the white cube, and we ask the people. They're already there with the hands behind their. This is this reminds me of wow. It speaks to me because of this. This like their whole perspective is already changed.
I think there is a part of fantasy. This idea of environment. I did some pieces in 2014 about that. I took like a big garbage can, like a container. I cut the container like on 30 centimeters, like a bas-relief. I only did throw-ups and tags, dirty throw-ups and tags on this container. And I put it on the wall, like a bas-relief canvas, ready-made piece. And many people, they were like, wow, it's beautiful, it's so nice, and I love it. But it's a garbage can full of tags, throw up and stickers, and they'd be like, super nice. But probably the same people would maybe call the police or call the municipality to say, can you change my garbage can in front of my building because it's super dirty. So yeah, the environment is really important, of course. Yeah.
You change the paradigm very easy by super fast.
Open the gallery, everything changed.
Exactly, this is the thing.
The funny thing is that sometimes they speak well, they are really intelligent, they have like a big art culture, but the fact that they don't have the graffiti culture, that disconnect them to the possibility of analyzing your work. For example, typically your work, if somebody doesn't know what you are doing and what you did, like a collector can come and can say, but that's super easy. It's like letters, outlining with a shadow and a tag. It's my kid can do the same, okay? If they know your history, they say, okay, I want to get part of everything what he did. That is huge. When I just arrived, I went through the big place where you had the two big Boris that you did recently. Okay, you want to get this only because you know the story of this guy. So they know the art history super good. They are really smart people. They are very intelligent. As soon as they don't have the reference and the culture enough to understand this, they would say this is shit. But if we go around Athens, if you show books, if you tell your story, they might be like, oh, I want to get this. I like also that game.
I love this conversation, and when people are coming and they see, first of all, like now I'm not anymore 20, and police are coming and arresting me. How old are you? And I'm like, yeah,
I am older than you.
yeah, but I am above 30. I'm nearly 40. So already the police officer arresting me is 22. And he looks at me and he's like, man, you're nearly 30, you are still painting graffiti instead of fucking a girl and go to the islands of Greece, you know.
I heard that.
Yes, and this is every time. But okay, this conversation for me, I'm telling you this, for me it's more interesting to try to change the perspective and to tell them, say, hey, listen, I don't have to open my phone to show followers, or I don't have to show artworks or to show rappels or anything. I explain, hey, this is my job. This was my hobby. I'm painting since 14 years old. I'm making a living of it, and I'm happy with it. It's a hobby. I understand. It's obviously it's illegal. I know it's against the law. It's not my first time in a police station. It's not gonna be first my court. It's not gonna be first the check for a lawyer. You know, it's not gonna be the first fine. It's not gonna be first time sleeping in a dirty cell for 48 hours or go to jail or whatever. It's like I have chosen it. I'm doing it. I know the price of what I'm doing, but I like the conversation and I like what I do and I like what others are doing. Let's go to the project that actually have gathered us together. And you brought me a copy of the book. So why this book?
Alors, first of all, that book come from the COVID area, like in 2020.
Then was born the idea.
Then born the idea. No, maybe end of the year, 2020. So during COVID, there was everybody couldn't go out, and there was the restrictions, the lockdown. So for the lockdown, I realized that the streets were totally empty. Yes. And for graffiti, that was super cool. So I decided to start to paint, and I remember that 1997 year when I said, okay, you're gonna do one throw up every day, 365. So I say, okay, let's try. Now I am almost 50. Why not playing that game? We're gonna do 2 per day. So let's go 700. Yeah, to double it. Let's do 730 through up 2020. So I started. That was really fun because except police, ambulance.
How did you go out? You had to send an SMS or something like this?
You need to print like a paper or something like that, but most of the time I didn't even have the paper, I just hide. So I started by walking, but then I realized that there was too many throw-ups around my apartment. Yeah, walking distance. So I said, okay. So I say, no, okay, you need to go a little further. So if not, they're gonna find where you live. So I started to do by bike, and so I was doing 2 per day. Sometimes it was raining, so I need to do 4. So same concept done a long time ago. And I think end of November or beginning of December.
6 months later, or?
No, almost at the end of the year that I was doing. Because I was writing down, because sometimes I couldn't go out, so I have to go out maybe after 1 week, so I have to do 14. So I took a calendar and I was writing down, okay, 2, 0, 4, 12, 6, just to count and to come to those 730. But end of November, beginning of December, when I was counting, I realized there was 666. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, the devil. And I was thinking, hey, that could be funny if you stop now, because that was like an evil year, like a terrible year for the world. And it's funny to stop at 666. So I say, okay, stop. And then I look at my iPhoto on my laptop, and I realized that 666, it's a lot. Okay. So there was so many throw-ups. I tried to put them together by colors, by walls. And then what happened? So lockdown stopped and COVID finally stopped. And the funny thing is that during COVID, I was painting a lot, but they wasn't buffing. Like the municipality, they also locked down the workers and stuff like that. So there was many
They were
throw-ups.
working. They were buffing from home.
Maybe, yeah. For it's called teleworking. So they were telebuffing, but no. So it was fucking destroyed. But when lockdown stopped and the workers came back, they buffed super fast because there was many work to do. So okay, let's do. And the funny thing is that I say, okay, cool. Now they buff, so I can take pictures also of the buffing when there was something left, And then from all those pictures that I saw on my laptop, I was thinking, hey, you should do a book.
Then came the idea of the book came after. It was not
after the 1 year of COVID. And then I was thinking, okay, you should do a book about throw-up. It's been a long time I was thinking about a book of throw-up, but I didn't know if it's going to be a book about night photography action, if it's going to be like the flag project, if it's going to be the old ones and the new ones, New York. Then I say, okay, you should do something more simple, like 1 year, 666 throw-up and the buff. And then I realized that it took me so long time to do the book that I started to say, okay, I don't like this one, so I'm going to change with the one from 2021. And then I say, okay, no, you're just going to do a book about throw-up, repetition.
So the concept evolved.
Yeah, it evolved a little bit, and it changed for the 1 year of COVID of just many throw-ups, like art of repetition and what happened when it's buffed. And then I decided to do this big book because I wanted to have this feeling of, like I told you before, like something kind of boring. Like people who don't know about graffiti culture and don't know about throw-up, they would be like, why this guy is always doing the same thing? What is the interest? Why? I don't get the point. What is the meaning, And for people who know, they would be like, oh, cool, he did so much, that's cool. I like the location, I like here there is a shadow, no shadow, dedication to that guy, blah, blah, blah. So I start the layout with a friend of mine, and then I say, okay, it's interesting, this idea of repetition, boring repetition, and we start to build the book that way. And then I was thinking, okay, it could be interesting to have some writings, some people who are talking about that. So I asked about throw-ups. So I asked two people, like an art professor, art historian, I already work with. Her name is Evelyn Toussaint. She's brilliant. And so she decided to talk about repetition and psychoanalysis and something really deep and interesting. And then I asked another guy, he's a researcher in sociology working about buffing in Paris for lots of time. So he wrote a part of the book about buffing. So the two parts were done for people who were writing. And then I asked Henry Chalfant to do like the introduction, the foreword. And he wrote something super cool about throw-up and talking about cap. That's funny because he was also talking about cap and New York throw-up and his New York throw-up vision. And then after 3 years of work, we finally come to the
working on the layout and the concept, or like because the concept was more or less already clear. Like you had the idea, you wanted to put. So what is the order that you put the throws? Like okay, somebody take the book and have a look, and what is the order that they how is it organized?
So we started more freestyle, like to put throw-ups and buffing and throw-ups with buffing and stuff like that. Then when I checked the layout, I felt there was something missing about this idea of repetition, because when you see 2 or 3 throw-up, then a buff, it goes together, you feel, oh, okay, it's cool, he's showing us painting, but now the painting disappear, okay, now. But something, like I told you, repetitive and boring was missing. So I asked the guy, what do you think if we separate in 2 parts? Like you cut the book in 2, one part are throw-ups, one part are buffing. So he tried this, and so there was 2 separated parts. And I say, okay, but what if we change the separation and we make it like we say dégradé in French, like a
Gradient.
like gradient, because I got so many strange buff that where they left half of my throw up, only the dot of the eye, just a shadow. I say, what if we try to do the gradient stuff? And then we saw, oh, it's cool, it's beautiful. So then came the name, Never Ending Story, and because meaning. Yeah, the meaning of never-ending story, that something that never stops. So I'm gonna paint, you're gonna buff, I'm gonna paint, you're gonna buff. So I say, what if we start with graffiti, we start with throw up, then gradiently, I don't know if it's correct, comes the buff, then gradiently come back the throw up, and then again come the buff. So we do like a loop, and I say, okay, cool. So then we find the idea of the layout.
So this is it. It's like the book is organized like a.
It's organized like a loop.
The birth, death, and rebirth.
And rebirth and rebirth.
Yeah.
And then from that, when I saw everything, I was like, okay, something is missing, because to have this idea of repetition, I always take only my throw up, but most of the time, I paint also with other writers. Okay. So you can see the end of the letter of the guy on the left side, and you can see the beginning of the letter. And I felt that was kind of unrespectful for those people I paint with, not to be in the book. So we tried something showing them, but that was kind of breaking this idea of repetition and of visual identity that I wanted to have in the book. So I say, okay, I'm going to do one part of the book that is the collaboration pictures. So I say, okay, we're going to change those pictures and having them in color to make them more important. Because it's, for me, throw up is also sharing stuff. I paint a lot by myself, but everywhere I go, I try to find other people who are doing throw ups and just to share that with them, especially in their hometown. If I go to Mexico, I know I'm going to see people and I'm going to having fun with them. So I want to have this in the book. And so we added this color 48 pages of collaboration with people. And then, okay, then the layout of the book was kind of conceptualized. Yeah.
Very nice. I am a collector of art, and you present me this book. How would you present me this book? I come to your exhibition, you show me your art, and there on the table there is this book, and I say, what is this book about? So you will tell me the same story?
No, I think the story behind that is the hidden story, is the secret society story, is the secret moment, is what everything that is hidden behind my paintings. I think, it's what's make me feel honest when I talk about my paintings is the fact that I am doing what's in that book. It's my obsession for alive graffiti in the streets, sometimes on some other objects. But what make me feel still close to the graffiti world or the graffiti experience. So and just for people also to understand how you can come to that point where something become an obsession, because I think it's only 3 years of painting and it's not all the paintings, but I think in the book you can understand this idea of repetition that should be something that goes with passion, with something that you love to travel, you love to eat, you love to have sex, you love to do something so many times that it should be like a passion. So I hope people they will understand that maybe I'm a little crazy or mad about this thing, but that exactly.
It's actually a book about your passion, and if I'm a collector and you tell me this, because this is a very, very good illustration of what we just spoke until now. This is a very good visual representation of your art as well, because here we don't see your artworks.
No, you don't see the paintings.
But we see a lot of buffed.
That
throw
can
ups.
be reference for my paintings.
Where we see clearly where the reference is coming, traces of paint, traces of buff, different colors and materials of environment, or how to say, support, where graffiti has happened, textures, the correct word. And it also actually shows the graffiti part. So it's what I like about this is literally that makes the connection between your two identity, one identity or two disciplines that you do, like your smashing throw-ups and your smashing artwork, and it shows the throw-ups connected to them. It's not like, yeah, by the way, I also did 300 throw-ups in the COVID time. It's not this, because if it was, I just did, 300, I underestimated you, 600, nearly 700. I told you about this number. I have something against it.
And to be honest, the truth is 667, because when I counted, I'm like, oh, you fake. You're gonna tell this evil story that connects the crazy, but it's not true. There's one more. Just to be sure it's not so bad. Yeah.
You arrived to make a very good visual explanation of your work in the gallery as well, because we see, first of all, we have a concept that is like we see the life of a throw-up, birth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, the loop getting back and forth, but it explains it explains the reference to
and the little marks that are left sometimes, not only by the buffing, but what's left from the throw-up that is a part of painting somewhere. So and I think if I didn't put the big buffing part, that would have been totally different. If it was only throw-ups, I think there would have been something missing, definitely.
If it was only throw-ups, it would be something different. It would be an album, your shoebox under the bed with your throw-ups. It would be like, okay, I want to have a book of all my throw-ups because I painted them and I want them all together. If it was the other, idea number 2, it will be, okay, I'll put throw-up and against buff. This is also first degree for me. The first idea, it's not a bad idea, as neither is the first idea. I would love album with all your throw-ups is cool. Album with buffed and throw-up and buffed, also super cool. Before, after, nice concept. But then when I first opened the PDF, when I first opened the book, and today you opened the book and you explain me, because I had a number of questions that I wanted to ask you. Why the order? Have you actually put them against together? It's on my first look, actually, I was like, what is the order? I didn't understand it. It was not in my face.
I think you need to see the whole book.
You need to see the whole book, obviously. Definitely. When you see the whole book, you're like, okay. But of course, now if you also hear this interview and you hear the explanation, I think the click is the clicking. I learned something. The tilt is tilting. So it's coming, and then the concept that you have arrived is very nice. So finally, the whole thing for me is really. Not because I'm involved, not because we are speaking and then doing this as a collab. For me, it's okay, man, this is so fucking nice to come to meet you, to discuss throw-ups, to discuss your art, to discuss your ideas, to hear about the book, and to have these 3 things. There were many more things, but these 3 things that they whole complement each other, and they support each other, and they are the same person and the same idea, and they illustrate and they speak in. It doesn't need a lot of representation. It doesn't need explanation. It doesn't need a big text with it to come with it, and it's really nice.
And I think the fourth part will be the photography itself. Because I was also thinking this book about not a conceptual book, but a photography book for people who might absolutely don't care about graffiti, but who cares about book and photography, that might also find something into that book. They'll be like, okay, I like this idea of the texture of the photography. I like how it goes gradient from one part to the other one, then something in color, then some text with a special paper, and I gave it to a friend of mine who is like working on wood stuff, is doing like furniture, is not into art at all, but he loves book, and he told me, wow, it's super cool, I'm a fetishist about book. And he was like, okay, I like the object, and I was really happy about that, because I know it can also like touch some people who only have like a book or photography.
Another thing, because okay, right now when we're recording this, the book is not yet released. You did a private presentation in your hometown, which was very well received. Can you tell me a little bit about this experience? How was it? How it went, and what was the feedback? Because you already showed the book to fans, to people who know your work and who doesn't know your work, that they know you personally, but they don't really know probably a lot. So, what was your what was your experience?
That was super nice. First, because that was my hometown, and I did it because I wanted to do something in my city, because usually I don't do that much exhibitions or events there. Also because I was working on the book for more than 3 years, and the location was super nice. There was a chapel that was super nice. I also had some photographs, like original photographs that I hand painted and hand buffed, not to have only the book to show and to present to people. And the audience was kind of surprised, and they really enjoy, like we said, the object, like, okay, cool. And in Toulouse, they saw them a lot. So sometimes I travel, I go to Mexico, this time I come here, I go to paint somewhere else. But that's in my hometown, where people that are used to see this same shape for those who doesn't know about graffiti, and the same throw-up for people who knows. They saw that for 30 years, and they'd be like, oh, okay, it's cool to have like this in one book that shows this. It's not iconic, but for people who live in Toulouse for many years, even if they are not into graffiti, many people, they say, oh, but I know your work. When they see that, they say, oh, I saw it, you know. So that was funny. And yeah, there was many people, because it's been a long time I didn't do something in Toulouse. No, that was super happy. I was really happy how people enjoyed the book, how they were, like I told you, they were surprised. So I was happy.
Who do you want to own this book, to have this book on his shelf? Like, is there anything, or it's like,
to
for
be
everybody?
honest, I wish young people doing graffiti today will enjoy that book, you know, because older people who knows me, they know the history, there might be a little bit of nostalgic. They say, oh, I used to see Tilt painting or Tilt throw up, or my old crew, like True School, or I saw this, I saw that, some videos, blah, blah, blah. But a 20 years old kid today who studied graffiti for 2 or 3 years only, who can find this book and be like, wow, there is something that I like, I think I would be happy.
It's a very humble wish, and very nice recognition to have, because okay, it's nice to be appreciated by the old school, by the true heads, by the OGs, by the galleries, but it's very difficult, because I'm noticing this as well. Let's not make everything about me, but also my observation is like, okay, the more you grow, the more irrelevant you become for the newer generation.
That's true, especially in graffiti. Yeah.
In everything. It's skateboarding, like
I'm the old school. You cannot understand. You're too young. I hate that. So that's why I think that was my answer, because something that I hate is that thing that you cannot know. You painting for 3 years. What does it mean? Maybe this guy is more passionate than you today. Is more active. Is more crazy. So what if he's painting for 3 years and you are painting for 35 years? How can you compare? You cannot compare. So I know some kids, there's some young kids in the book, in the collaboration part. And for me, it's super important to stay connected with those guys, and not to be a guy from the past, but try to keep on being a guy from the present, you know?
Yeah. This is another topic I wanted to speak with you. That is what's up now with the next generation? What what is happening with what we leave behind, because we touch this point by being the young ones, by being influenced, being mentored. Like, what is the give back from us to the generation? What is the way that you give back? What do you want to give back to the young people, and how you're doing it?
Think, in a simple way. I think, just when I paint with some kids, they are 23 or 20, I might be older than their father.
Yeah, it's possible.
So they'd be like, wow, that's fucking crazy. I'm doing throw-ups with a guy who is older than my dad. And so I can see in their eyes, wow, I might be this dad, What if when I am 53, I can be like this stupid guy, it's 2 a.m., we're painting in the street, doing throw-ups. It's funny that this guy can have this life and my dad doesn't. What if I want to have this life? Maybe I can get it. Yeah. So I like this. Except that I think new generation are so crazy, so strong, so creative. You can be like, I was there before and I did that and I did that. But if you're honest, the young kids, in a way, they are better than you and they got more power, they got more energy. So you got to be humble and you got to be happy to be able to paint with them and to say, okay, if you can have, you got the knowledge, you got the craziness and the energy. If I can hope that I give you something, that's just the idea of you can do it for the next 30 years, Yes. That's the only thing. And then if we can paint together, then I'm happy because I feel I'm part of the contemporary history and not only painting with my old friend in an abandoned factory doing nice tiles. We paint together, we climb together. Okay, it's cool. You take me to new spots that I don't know. You take me back to the trains. I'm a bit scared. Okay, I follow you because you know the rules of today. Yeah. I knew the rules. I don't know them anymore, so I follow you. I see it's cool. And they change. There is a sensor. What is a sensor? Okay. What is a sensor? Okay, I don't know what it is. I don't understand the people who are like, I'm the old school. We did that. You need to respect, blah, blah, blah. Man, you need to respect the people who are doing that today because it's way more complicated and they can also be. And what I love is that they don't seem to be bored. They can say, okay, graffiti is done. It has been done. People did the whole cars, the whole train in New York. Everything has been done. Let's try to find a new way of expression. Let's go into free party, music, whatever. No. We still have young people being like, okay, let's do throw-ups, let's do graffiti, let's paint trains, and I really love that. I really admire that. And to be honest, I think I never think about getting respect. I always thought about having adventures, having fun, experimenting stuff, creating stories. But the idea of you're gonna respect me, that's something that's not something that is in my mind. It's like you say, it's gonna come by people who's gonna come to you and they say, hey man, I really respect you because you did that. But if you do graffiti to get respect, man, I don't know, do MMA maybe if you want to be respected. So that like 3 years ago, that was my 50th birthday. And Tupon, my mentor, he organized something super cool. He asked all my friends and all the people I know, even in New York, everywhere, to do like a little video to say happy birthday and a little story. And I was that guy from Toulouse that I know is a great writer. One of the best letters that I know is this guy. His name is Caius. And he told me this story that when he was a kid, he was coming to me many times and asking me throw-ups because he said, oh, Tilt, I love your throw-up. I'm starting graffiti. Can you do a throw-up? And every time he was meeting me, he was asking me for a throw-up. And on the video, he was telling me, okay, I have something to tell you. First of all, thank you because I almost started graffiti because of you and you threw up really put me into that kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. So I was really happy. And then he said, but I have something to tell you. Every time I was coming to asking you a throw up is because I was selling them at school 50 francs, which is like nothing. Yeah. And he was like, I'm sorry, I always felt bad because every time I asked you for a throw up, you were like, okay, cool, no problem, I do a throw up. And he was living in a poor neighborhood, like in the suburbs, even further than Toulouse. And he was selling them 50 francs, like 3 euro something, or something like that. No, 750 euro. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, wow, that's so cool, you know? So yeah.
This is a true hustle.
Yeah, that was a true hustle. Yeah.
Hey, but don't sell your shit on eBay.
Yeah, no. Now it's bad.
This is the child innocence, but we don't encourage people to do this. Rat snitches. This is no. Thank you very much.
No,
man.
thank you, Boris.
I think
that
this was very nice.
A pleasure. Yeah, really cool.
Conversation.
Nice.
Same conversation. Same pleasure. Pleasure is mutual.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening this far. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Tilt. I would like to take just a few seconds more to explain you about the editions of this lovely book. We have it available in 3 editions. The standard edition includes a copy of Never Ending Story. The collector edition of the book is strictly limited to 150 copies. They come with a copy of the book Never Ending Story, which is signed and numbered, and a print 15 by 21 centimeter, which has been printed, painted, and hand buffed by Tilt himself. All of the prints have a unique look. The archive edition is our most exclusive collector item. It's limited only in 50 pieces. It comes in a hardcover, signed and numbered by Tilt, and each book has a special and unique color and material of the cover and a special picture. No 2 books from this edition are the same. Also in the archive edition we have included a printed, painted, buffed, signed and numbered by Tilt. All the information and links to purchase are available at tilt.thegrifters.org and they are placed in the description of this video. Thank you very much for your time. Kind regrets. Goodbye and see you soon.